What is up guys, Andy Forrest, the Dean Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm giving you guys my first impressions of the Hoka Mach X. So I absolutely loved my Hoka Mach 4, haven't tried the Mach 5, and now this thing, the Mach X, is a completely different beast. And I'm really excited to tell you guys how I found it on my first run. Plenty more testing to come, but today we're diving in and sharing some thoughts, facts and figures, and how I found this shoe out there on the run. Before we go into this video, very quick disclaimer, it's a pair of shoes that ProDirect sent me for the purpose of review. However, they have no editorial control over this video. I have no idea of my thoughts, and they certainly will not see anything before you guys get to see it here on YouTube. So with that out of the way, we're going to dive into how I tested it, give you a technical overview, and then how I found the shoe. So for the first run, I decided to take this thing out on a zone 2, a moderate effort. I knew I didn't want to take this out on an easy run. That's exactly what the shoe is not built for. So I knew I wanted to pick up the pace a bit. I am just post Oxford half marathon, so I finished a big training block, just done a goal half marathon, and now I'm going to be building back up. So I've not got any real intense speed for a while. So I thought the best I could test this thing out on was to give some kind of oomph into it and get it out on a zone 2 run. It ended up being a rather quick zone 2 run. Although it was 40 minutes, I managed to cover 6.19 miles and I ran at 6:31 per mile. This shoe wanted me to move, and I'm really excited to talk more about that in the first impressions at the end. So yeah, we've got a 40-minute run in the shoe, moderate zone 2, steady effort. And now we'll roll straight into the technical overview before giving you my first impressions. We'll start by saying I went true to size in this shoe. So Hoka don't do UK 13, they do 13.5. Kind of, I think it goes to 11 and then 12.5, 13.5, 14.5. So it's as close to true to size as I could get it. In terms of a heel to toe drop, we're talking about a 39 millimeters of stack height in the heel, 34 in the forefoot, meaning we've got a 5 millimeter heel to toe drop. And in my UK size 13.5, it comes in at 326 grams or 11.5 ounces. And as always, we'll work our way from the heel counter, talk about the ankle collar, tongue, lacing, upper, midsole, and then outsole. A relatively simplistic shoe, to be honest with you. This is a Creel jacquard upper, like a jacquard mesh upper. We've seen it in a few other shoes, and very, very comfortable, very breathable. You can see, hopefully you can see, if not the overlay footage will show you, very breathable in and around the toe box, going all the way back here and back here. The only place it gets a little bit thicker, where there's a little bit more some structure, is around the back here, which is where we're going to start. So as you can see, the heel counter, there's a bit of give in there, but it's also got a bit of structure. So obviously this is more of a speed day shoe, so it's going to be lighter all round, which it is, but it's still got a little bit of stability and structure in the back here to make sure you feel secure and safe when you lock your heel in. And the padding is a good amount all the way around the heel counter, up the back of the Achilles, and back round the other side. So that section is really nice, and I did get a really nice locked in feeling, starting with the tongue. So the tongue is paper thin at the top, but again, just like most tongues I've tested this year, bit of padding kicks in when you get to the laces, just gives a little bit of protection over the top of the foot, but it is very much on the thinner side, but it is gusseted, meaning it's attached to the medial and lateral sides of the shoe, inside and outside, and it just wraps over the top of the foot really nicely. So that, again, it kind of makes the complete package. I talk about it in a lot of shoes. If you get a really nice lockdown at the back here and everything's nice and comfortable with the cushioning, plus then a nice gusseted tongue wrapping over the top, tightening the laces, you usually get a pretty darn good lockdown. You do in this shoe. The laces didn't come undone for me, which was great. I did have a concern over the laces, if I'm honest with you. I do feel a little bit cheap. Nothing that swapping the laces out can't sort, but they did feel a little bit of a weird material. Didn't grip too well when I was cinching them down. Ironically though, they have held really, really well. So maybe that was just my first impressions, and don't judge a book by its cover. So they did really well. And again, a standard lacing system, nothing fancy there, just really good quality. As I said earlier, jacquard mesh upper that goes all the way around, very breathable, very comfortable. I ran in wet conditions this morning, and it was very, very nice to run in. And we'll talk about the grip in a second, but overall the upper side of the shoe is a big thumbs up. We have a dual density midsole, I think is the way to say it. We've got the peba based midsole on the top here. This is what you will find in the Rocket X2, their new race model. This is the real soft, squishy, so nice. And it is so good to see a Hoka incorporate some of this midsole. I can't stop squeezing it. Really, really nice. And that runs the top portion of the shoe, then sandwiched between that and the EVA, the ProFly X EVA midsole foam on the bottom, which is the firmer stuff, is a peba plate, sorry, that runs in between the two. And that just gives a little bit more assistance with the propulsion as you sort of toe off and roll off through the shoe. It just aids in the foot strike and gives you a little bit more spring back. And that works really well with both of the foams. So yeah, we've got the peba foam on the top, and then we've got the EVA blend on the bottom. There's more of it at the heel, less of it in the forefoot. So you'll really benefit from this lovely soft squishy peba foam if you're very much a midfoot to forefoot striker. And then we've got some very, very thin rubber outsole, which I was extremely concerned about when I was out there on the tarmac, that I wasn't going to get good grip. I did get good grip, very much like the Rocket X, the original version that I tested. It looks a very similar sort of pattern, very thin covering of rubber. I never had grip issues with that, and I certainly don't with this one as well. And that runs pretty much a lot of the front, a bit on the back, and there's some exposed midsole in the middle there. And you'll see this green here. That's the plate that runs through the middle of the two midsoles, and that is it for the tech. So how did I find this shoe to run in? Was it great, or was it a little bit of a letdown? Well, I have to say this was a big, big thumbs up, and it is so refreshing, as I just said, in that technical section, to find this new soft squishy peba foam in a Hoka shoe. It is wonderful because when you squidge the top bit and then the bottom bit here, there's such a difference between the two foams. And yeah, I totally get and can understand why people are loving the Rocket X2. I've got a slither of the foam here and it feels wonderful. I'm sure with a full blast of that midsole, it must be absolutely incredible. So definitely one for me to try and test at some point in the future. But I think what I'm going to say about this shoe is classic Hoka with a twist. That's kind of the thing that popped into my head as I was running. A very familiar sort of land and roll through. Original Rocket X, my original Carbon X racing shoes, their very first super shoe. I really love that shoe on the firmer side, but you had this wonderful kind of land and roll through, a gliding motion that you get with Hokas. You don't get this sort of sink and bounce. I gather you probably do in the Rocket X too, but a lot of other Hoka shoes is a very smooth foot strike. Smooth is a good word to associate with Hoka shoes. But now with this softer, springier peba midsole in here, you do get a little bit more snap back in the shoe, and you really do move nicely. That combined with the peba plate, it just made for a really wonderful ride. So in terms of weight wise, this thing sits right in and around my On Cloud Flow 4, my Saucony Ride 16s, and then just the other side, the Cliftons from Hoka. So if I was to look at this shoe and match it up with what I would expect it to be and with other shoes in terms of like what I would use it for in training, I'm thinking the Saucony Endorphin Speed, I'm thinking the Brooks Hyperion Max. And again, this thing is weighing about 20 or 30 grams heavier than the Speed, a little bit more than the Hyperion Max. So weight, in terms of if you stacked it up against shoes that it should be competing against, it is on the heavier side. But I have to say, it made up for it in terms of like how it flowed, how it moved on that moderate run. So for context, my moderate runs are usually anywhere between sort of like 6:35 per mile and 6:45. On a sluggish day, maybe in the 6:50s. But this morning was 6:31. And I really, really rolled in this shoe. I'm on a down week, so yes, I was feeling a bit fresher, but still suffering the aches and pains from Oxford. Not that, to be honest with you, I've had any issues this week. I felt really, really good, but I haven't run that much, so it was a real welcome and refreshing ride to lace up and get out there. So it really did take me fast, and it felt good and smooth in the process. Heart rate was good, right in the right area, 147 beats a minute, so very, very controlled in zone 2. So yeah, overall, efficiency is the name of the game with this shoe. It kept me efficient, it moved me fast, and it had that extra bounce that has just been lacking from Hoka shoes. If you saw my Clifton review after 100 miles, you'll see that I was slightly disappointed with how kind of dead and flat the foam feels after 100 miles. And now, as I said, having tested this, it's just such a wonderful, refreshing breath of fresh air to have something like this in there. So obviously more testing to come, only one run done in it, and as the training block picks up, as I build towards London Marathon, fingers crossed next year, I'll be able to put more miles in this shoe. It's a shoe that 100% right now I can say is going to be getting a lot more miles in it. This will get to 100 miles. I can already envisage me using this a lot on moderate days and some low-key workout days. So when I say low-key, I mean like not top-end speed, but maybe some like tempo work, maybe some sort of faster stuff out there on the trails, just building up some strength. Not looking for quick, fast turnover, better shoes in the rotation for that. This is going to be a lower-end workout type of shoe, and I should think it's going to do pretty darn well. So, first impressions of the Hoka Mach X, really good, plenty more testing to come, obviously only one run, so take it with a pinch of salt. Follow the extra channel, I'll post a video on there after I've taken it out for a long run, whether that's this weekend or next weekend, I'm not sure, but it will be one of the two, and I'll give you some more thoughts on how it goes there. But from the 40 minutes that I tested it out today, it was really, really good. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the Hoka Mach X after just one run, plenty more to come. Would love to hear if you picked this shoe up, and if you have, drop in the comments how you're finding the shoe. Let me know how many miles you've got and how you're finding it moving through the mileage, if you're still finding it as poppy and responsive as you did on the first run, or if the foam is kind of going like what the Clifton did and not very good. Would love to hear that, because that will help out so many people that are watching this video for the first time and looking at it going, well, he's only done one run, we need a bit more information than that. You guys can really help out there. So drop them in the comments below, it would be great to hear from you there. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one. Until then.